Hey everyone, before we get into this week's episode of the podcast, I want to shout out a major sponsor of the podcast, that being Zencastr. Zencastr is the ultimate all-in-one podcasting platform. It has been designed to bundle all your podcasting needs from recording, editing, distributing, and monetizing, thus making it easy for people to create their podcast and manage their podcast. In terms of recording, it gives you studio quality recording features such as video up to 4K, as well as recording audio in 16-bit 48K WAV audio tracks, regardless of your internet connection, and also has a really nice cloud feature that keeps your backups of recording. If you're someone that wants to get into podcasting like myself, who uses Zencastr for Talk of the Town, definitely make sure to go check out Zencastr in the show notes down below. Hey everyone, welcome to Talk of the Town. This is a podcast where we talk about all things media, creators, business, and more. My name is Tristin. I'm the host of the podcast. Is this your first time listening to the podcast? Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're returning from previous episodes of the podcast, thank you so much for stopping by to a brand new episode. In today's video, guys, we have a lot of really intriguing things to talk about. And we're also going to be introducing a new aspect to the podcast starting today, that being a little bit of a quick bites format before we get into our main topics of the episode. Now, before I go any further, guys, I also do want to say make sure to go support our newsletter. It is a really great way to stay up to date with the topics that we talk about both on the podcast and off the podcast, as well as updates surrounding the podcast as well. All right, guys. Now, getting into our first quick bite story, we have some really interesting news coming out of Warner Brothers Discovery, and this has to do around the potential sale of one of its sort of legacy brands called All3 Media. Now, for many people, they probably really don't know about this company. You know, it's one of those that really has been tucked away inside of the Warner Brothers, library and, plethora of brands. But essentially, it's sort of a production venture between Warner Brothers Discovery and Liberty Global. Essentially, it's the largest television production firm in Britain, which has done Fleabag, The Traitors, The Tourist, and as well, 1917. And it seems that, according to the Hollywood Reporter, that either Warner Brothers Discovery or Liberty Global are looking to sell to a third party or have one of them buying out the other's 50% stake. Now, this is a very early stage process right now, but some people believe that this company could fetch easily, in between, $1.5 billion or so, which I think is quite literally crazy. Now, basically, the reason why this is happening is that, back in 2014, when Discovery and Liberty decided to buy All3 Media, that was at a time when Discovery itself was trying to get into the production business. But obviously, now that Discovery, owns Warner Brothers and all that, thus Warner Brothers Discovery, it really means that it's less necessary and appealing to the overall company, given that, you have Warner Brothers Picture and Warner Brothers Television Group and all these sorts of other things. So I will say I'm very intrigued by this. I am really going to keep an eye on this because I'm wondering who the potential buyers of a company like this could be. But what I want to know from you guys on social media is, who do you think would buy this company? Do you think Warner Brothers would keep it, or do you think that we'll sort of see a little bit of shakeups in the entertainment space? Let me know what you guys think about that. All right, guys. Getting into our second quick talk, we have some really interesting news coming from Paramount, and this has to do with a bombshell, that being that Paramount is exploring a sale of the CBS Broadcast Center in New York. This is a complex on West 57th Street, which basically is like an entire city block and serves as the headquarters for CBS News, HBO's Last Week Tonight, various other TV shows, programs, and things of that nature. Now, CBS chief George Cheeks did confirm to the Hollywood Reporter and as well the New York Post that they are exploring a sale and that it could be going on the market very soon. It's very intriguing as to this because it is one of the last major pieces of real estate that Paramount still owns. It previously sold its corporate headquarters as well as Television City in Los Angeles. So this is really kind of intriguing. And they are going to try and build maybe a new facility or something of that nature. So I will certainly keep you guys posted on this. I think again, it's really crazy to see that a lot of these entertainment companies are getting rid of their studio spaces and things like that, but it's not unexpected as well. All right, guys. Getting into our third piece of really intriguing information, Regal Cinemas and National Sim Media have signed a new long-term deal. This basically is going to be a 10-year arrangement for in-theater advertising. Both of these companies, as many of you guys know, are in the process of restructuring and really trying to build back from the pandemic. But basically, while terms were not disclosed, it will basically see NCM continue to exclusively offer on-screen advertisements at Regal Cinemas over 6,000 screens and 450 theaters. And I think ultimately this is going to be really intriguing because of the fact that, this is something we've been really wondering is what's going to happen with the theater space. Obviously there's been news that Cineworld is scrapping plans to sell businesses outside the US and the UK. They're planning to emerge from bankruptcy next month. So I think that'll be very intriguing to see what happens here. But I want to know from you guys, do you still go to the theaters anyways? And do you even think that this matters to you? Let me know what you guys think about this on social media. I'm certainly intrigued by it as well. All right, guys. And then our last big quick bite content that we need to talk about is that Spotify is slashing its podcast workforce. They're combining both Paracast and Gimlet Studios. And basically these cuts are going to be around 2% of its workforce, or around 200 jobs. Basically, this is sort of their idea that by merging Parcast and Gimlet into a single Spotify Studios division, it will join the Ringer in producing Spotify originals. We've already seen some cancellations happening as of last year from both Parcast and Gimlet, and I think that this is really intriguing across the board. Spotify is becoming less of a music streaming service and more of a multimedia company. We've seen it with music and podcasts and audiobooks and scripted originals and all sorts of other things. So I think it is very intriguing to say the least. But I want to know what you guys think about this as well. All right, guys. Now, with that being said, let's get into the main topics for this episode, because we've got some really intriguing things to talk about that have been happening in the past week or so of the entertainment industry. And I'm really excited by this. First off, we need to talk about the Mouse House and the major move that was pulled over the last couple weeks with Disney basically removing a ton of shows from both Disney Plus and Hulu. I personally was really hurt by this because there were a lot of really awesome shows both on Hulu and Disney Plus that did get removed. We're talking about shows like Willow, Cheaper by the Dozen. We saw other projects like National Treasure getting removed. And one of my favorite shows that was both on Hulu and Disney Plus, that being Marvel's Runaways, has been removed as well. Essentially, Disney took a $1.5 billion write-down during the most recent quarter of the year as they removed over 30 shows off of Disney Plus and Hulu. They're trying to bring down costs. Bob Iger, when he came back to Disney, basically said that they were going to try and cut around $5.5 billion because, as many people know, the streaming business for Disney was not doing very well under Bob Chapek financially, even though there was a lot of content output. So it is really intriguing. However, Disney has said it's continuing its review, and they're expected to remove another $400 million worth of shows in the near future. So it is really upsetting. But I want to know from you guys, did you have any of your favorite shows taken off of Disney Plus or Hulu? How do you feel about this? It sucks. I know, believe me, but I want to know what you guys think about it on social media. All right, guys. Now, getting into some other news around studios, we need to talk about some really intriguing news with Netflix. And this has to do with, I think, really the fact that Netflix for quite some time has really been drawing backlash, right? We've seen, obviously, over the last year and a half, the mass cancellation of a lot of shows, either at 1 or 2 seasons. We've seen, some good moves by Netflix, such as, season 4 of Manifest. But we've also seen now some really intriguing news that has come out. That being that Netflix shareholders have essentially rejected by a 3-1 margin a 2023 compensation plan for its top executives. This was a vote that was held at last Thursday's annual shareholder meeting, and the exact tally was released in an SEC filing, basically saying that while 97.8 million shareholders voted in favor, almost 242 million were against it. The vote was non-binding, meaning executives will still be able to collect their packages as projected, but it is a symbolic setback for the company. And this is really kind of a big thing. This follows a letter from the WGA urging a no, because of its ongoing strike against Netflix and other streamers and studios. A similar vote is expected with Comcast's upcoming shareholder meeting as well. So it is very intriguing, to say the least. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Are you guys excited by this? Are you happy about this? Do you think that this is what Netflix deserves for being part of the writer's strike and everything? Let me know what you guys think about this on social media. All right, guys. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a moment to stop and talk about some really awesome sponsors of the podcast. The first one being Fanatics. Fanatics sells officially licensed merchandise for some of the biggest leagues like the NCAA, NFL, MLB, NBA, and much more. They have a huge selection of jerseys, shirts, hats, collectibles, memorabilia, and much more, including 500,000 items from all the top brands in sports, and it is a really amazing platform. I'm sure if you yourself as a sports fan, no matter where you live in the world, have tried to get your hands on really amazing jerseys or collectibles or memorabilia for some of your favorite athletes or teams, I'm sure you've gone to Fanatics. So make sure to go check out the link down below in the show notes and have fun. Another sponsor of the podcast I want to talk about is Fierce. Fierce is a finance super app that puts your money to work for you. Just a couple of the cool things that Fierce is coming out with is a no-fee debit card that has access to 55,000 ATMs across the country. On top of that, if you're someone that really wants to make your money work for you, they have both FDIC insured savings accounts up to 4.25% APY, as well as being able to do investing in stocks and ETFs while earning yield on that. And at the same time, they're one of the only companies out there doing regulated crypto trading, which is really awesome, as well as a 1.5% cashback credit card with wealth tracking and 24/7 live support. This is also a company that was created by the former CIO of the New York Stock Exchange and a lot of other people from Chime, Bank of America, Gemini, and tons of other big name financial brands. So it's a company that you can trust. I'm an investor in the company as well. And I really hope you guys do go check it out. The link will be down in the show notes below. And the last sponsor for this episode that we need to talk about is Marriott Bonvoy. It is a loyalty program at Marriott International, obviously one of the world's largest hotel chains. The program allows members to earn points for stays at Marriott properties, and these points can also be redeemed for free nights, room upgrades, and other perks. They also include tiers with their program, such as late checkout, breakfasts, and they can even earn points through partnerships with other companies like airlines, credit card companies, and other travel providers. I myself have been a big believer in Marriott. Whenever I am traveling, I always stay at a Marriott property because the quality and the care that they give to guests is amazing. So if you're looking to join the Marriott family, make sure to go check out the link down in the show notes below. With that being said, let's get to the podcast. Now, getting into some really intriguing culture news, Lionel Messi has confirmed that he is going to be joining the Inter Miami Football Club in the MLS, for the first time bringing Lionel Messi to the United States. Now, as many of you guys know, if you're a big soccer or football fan, he is the greatest player of all time, and basically tweeted out that a confirmation, was in the works for him to go to the Inter Miami club, which is co-owned also by David Beckham. And this is basically the biggest move ever for the U.S. Pro League, because of the fact that signing Messi means a lot of really intriguing things. Now, media outlets are saying that the terms of his deal include a similar ownership option of the club, as well as a cut from revenue from new subscribers to Apple TV's MLS season pass service, as well as some other things. And I mean, this is a really big bombshell news. There are rumors that he reportedly had turned down $1 billion offer from the Saudi Pro League. So it is really intriguing, but I want to know what you guys think about this. Are you guys really intrigued by this? Are you a soccer or football fan? And what do you think this means for the sport as a whole, that Lionel Messi is coming to the United States and everything? All right, guys. With that being said, let's move into another topic. And this has to do with our good old friends over at the CW, because some really intriguing news has come out in a couple of different ways. The first one being that Inside the NFL has now made its way to the CW after Paramount Plus recently dropped it. It was reported by Deadline as well as other sources recently that this was going to be happening. Now, for those that are confused, because the CW is normally a network that's been known for teen dramas and superhero shows, essentially the CW, under its new ownership group, that being Nexstar Media Group, is really trying to change the direction of the network, make it more of a traditional broadcast network, and they're doing this with sports. We've seen it already where they did the docuseries 100 Days to Indy, and now they have the rights to highlights and analysis series Inside the NFL. It will debut on the network September 5th at 8 p.m. and then also stream on the CW app. It's really intriguing, to say the least. I think that this is going to be really intriguing. They are looking for new hosts and producers, but I think ultimately this could be really intriguing to reimagine the CW and really try to do something unique. I myself have not been a big fan of a lot of the decisions happening at the new era of the CW, but this is actually something that I might myself watch now, given that it has been moved from Paramount Plus over to the CW. So let me know on social media. Are you guys a fan of the NFL? Did you watch this series when it was on Paramount Plus? Let me know what you guys think and so forth. All right, guys. Now, on top of that, the second part to talking about the CW is that a article from Deadline came out talking about the unscripted plans for the CW. They did a interview with Heather Olander, who is now the head of unscripted programming at the CW, and she basically kind of talked a lot about all the different things that are happening right now. Apparently, according to her, 50% of the schedule for the CW moving forward will be unscripted. And, she admitted that while there are red flags all around, she took on the challenge because what they see is that they're going to be trying to drag in a brand new audience, a broader audience, and also having the challenge of not unlimited marketing and production dollars, which, is different compared to most of the entertainment industry right now. But I think, that this is really intriguing, right? We've started to see this happening with a couple of different things. Obviously the CW recently announced that they are going to be bringing, F-Boy Island and, F-Girl Island over from HBO Max. And so they're probably looking to make this their version of The Bachelor. I think it'll be very intriguing. how they do this. They've also got a lot of really unique shows like Whose Line Is It Anyways, which is returning, and there are discussions around whether or not the current cast is going to continue. She did also talk about what the new streaming and distribution model for the CW is going to be. But there is a lot that was talked about on the article, and I will say that I am not entirely surprised about this. Right, I think that the CW is really in a reinvention mode, but I think at the same time, they're going to have a really steep hill to climb. There is still news pending on 3 remaining scripted shows at the CW on the bubble, that being Superman and Lois, All American Homecoming, and Gotham Knights. But let me know what you guys think about the CW right now. Are you guys happy for the CW? Are you someone that's going to stick around for this new era of the CW come the fall? Let me know what you guys think as well. All right, guys. Now, moving into a little bit of sports news, it got announced yesterday that the PGA Tour and the Saudi-backed Live Golf League are going to be merging with each other. Now, this has been a really stunning turn of development for both fans of golf, but also the sports industry as a whole, because many people know that Live Golf and the PGA Tour do not really get along well. Live has maintained for quite some time that the PGA had really engaged in anti-competitive practices by punishing players who went over to Live. And also at the same time, we've seen, sort of claims coming from the other side as well. But basically, this was a major surprise. Many people really did not know about this, including its TV partners. So it'll be very intriguing to see what happens from here. There's definitely a lot of condemnation and backlash that is happening right now because of this. But I think ultimately this makes a lot of sense. What this is going to do is essentially combine Live Golf, the PGA Tour, and the European tour that the PGA Tour is in control of as well. So it will be very intriguing to see what happens moving forward. But I want to know what you guys think on social media about this as well. All right, guys. Now, moving into our next topic for this episode, we have some really intriguing news. And I will say I did not see this coming this soon, but I did expect it. The news came out yesterday that Chris Licht is out at CNN after a year at the network. He is stepping down as the chairman and CEO of CNN. His departure comes after a really big bombshell profile in The Atlantic, which infuriated people within the network more than they had already been in the past few months. And essentially, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav told the staffers in a morning call yesterday that Chris Licht was going to be leaving and that the search was on for a new CEO. Now, moving forward from this, they've basically said that top executives Amy Entelis, who is the executive vice president of talent and content development, Eric Sherling, who is the EVP of U.S. programming, and Virginia Mosley, who is the vice president of editorial, will serve as the acting leadership team in the interim, as well as David Levy, who is a top aide to David Zaslav, has been named as COO of CNN. So it is really intriguing to see the moves happening over at CNN. There are a lot of people who have noticed that CNN's ratings have been falling over the last year. Also, we've seen the pairing of Don Lemon, Caitlin Collins, and Poppy Harlow from the network. So it is really kind of intriguing. But again, Chris Licht really did no favors for him in this, Atlantic article, because it was a big, huge, extensive 15,000 word profile where basically he criticized the network. He also really tried to sort of paint himself as the savior for CNN while really, talking a lot negatively about Jeff Zucker, the former CEO of CNN. So it is very upsetting to see this, but at the end of the day, it is not surprising. All right. Now, moving into our final topic for this particular episode, we have some really intriguing news, and this has to do with Twitch because, oh boy, Twitch itself as a streaming platform has been facing a lot of challenges over the last few years, right? We've went from competitors like YouTube Gaming and Mixer to now Kick, which is really been taking the streaming space for gamers and content creators by large. And essentially, what happened over the last few days is that Twitch had announced that it was going to be changing its branded content guidelines. Basically, that meant that streamers could only have logos taking up more than 3% of their screen size and prohibiting video, audio, and display ads from being put directly into streams, thus reducing the avenues available for streamers to make money on the platform from advertisements and sponsors and things of that nature. Now, the backlash essentially was so big that people like Osmond Gold, as well as the group OTK, has essentially said that they are looking to possibly leave the platform, as well as a lot of content creators who I personally know of are looking at taking legal action and trying to get out of their partnership agreement. And so this is a really big thing, right? A lot of people believe that these changes were made so the company can monopolize more streamers' income because, for those that don't know, Twitch basically takes about 50% of most revenue from subscriptions on the platform and things of that nature. And with them having now their own influencer marketing ad platform, essentially this is something that isn't surprising. Twitch itself has widely been an unprofitable venture under Amazon, and it just seems that now they're trying to really try to turn things around. The backlash, however, caused Twitch to basically go on social media and apologize for language being supposedly broad and clarifying it would rewrite the guidelines, and trying to basically say that they were not intending to limit streamers' ability to enter direct relationships with sponsors and trying to prohibit third-party ad networks from selling ads on the platform. Now, they have also gone ahead, though, and at the same time removed this entire guideline as of earlier this morning. But I wanted to talk about this because this creates a really intriguing aspect for live streaming and content platforms, because ultimately what we're seeing then is this really big transformation and a lot of people migrating from Twitch, who has been the dominant live streamer platform in the world for many, many years, to now other platforms. And I'm really excited to see what happens. I myself have already made the move from Twitch over to Kick, because for someone like me, I just personally, even before this announcement, was not really having it with Twitch over the last few months with a lot of their decisions. And I think it is really sad to see that Twitch is, really on its last leg as a company right now, to the point where this is having to happen. But let me know what you guys think. Are you someone that watches or streams on Twitch? Are you someone that is enraged by this? Let me know what you guys think on social media as well. All right, guys. So with that being said, this is the end of the podcast. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, please make sure to leave a rating. It really means a lot to myself and everyone that works on this podcast. And also make sure to go check out all of our sponsors in the show notes down below, as well as our newsletter, where again, you can stay up to date with all things happening with the podcast, as well as topics that we did not get to cover on the podcast as well. But with that being said, everyone, my name is Tristin, the host of the podcast, and we will see all of you in the next one.